Pick me up out west, drop me off up north, light a switch and let's ride. About to grab that fifth, pick me up a couple runners riding through the south side. It's 606, whatever, land of the cheddar, the go is where I reside. The Shy's the place to be, liquid and made the G, I'm ready to ride.
I am not stopping your shine, but I stay on time with these lines that I design. Look at you, acting like a real menace, you lame. You the type to rep the city, but you live in displays. I got game, I figure. Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 606 Whatever podcast, where we touch on events and agendas around the world and feed them to you from a Chicago perspective. If you don't know me, I am Big Mel, aka The Premise. Today's topic we're going to touch on is sports, specifically two issues in sports that has sports fans segregated immensely regarding the issues. So before we touch on our first topic, let me just bring you guys a couple of sports analysts that is that what we calling ourselves?
I mean, I'll take it.
So we
have an opinion.
Right. Absolutely. Let me start off with my man Vince Parks. Vince, what's going on?
Thank you for having me. How you doing?
We formulated sports talk and just kind of dug into different issues in sports and all types of issues. But for this particular case, we're talking sports, and I think we both understand and depart and disagree with some of our thought processes, but we respect them and we know that both of us are very knowledgeable about it. We also have Brandon Terry. How you doing? BT, you actually a football coach.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I lost my mic.
Yeah.
We ain't got to stop rolling. You know, it happens. Technical difficulties and things like that. But yes, I am a football coach. I got a youth football program out in the suburbs of Chicago and Lansing, Southtown Stallions. We've been going since 2014.
A minute, absolutely.
And, we just trying to, put the football knowledge within kids and, push them through football to create a better person in life as they move forward.
So, that was very political. So I know where your stance is on the NFL. So let's start off with the NBA, the free agency fiasco. So as you know, LeBron James signed with the Los Angeles Lakers, which if we can all agree on that, is just gonna build their team up and have them progress a whole lot further in the NBA than they have been within the past 8-9 years. Is that pretty much accurate? They also signed Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley. I'm not too sure what that was about, but it's fair to say that they still have, and is it fair to say that they still have a ways to go before they can compete with Golden State Warrior team, who have just recently acquired DeMarcus Boogie Cousins, right?
Yes.
Who I think signed for them for like 5.3 for 1 year.
Right.
The free agency, we're talking about free agency and just how overwhelmingly anticipated it is by us and the league as well, I'm sure. Is this turning into something that could potentially damage the National Basketball Association's credibility with fans and in turn damage their viewings, their revenue? Let's speak on that.
Personally, I think it was a well thought out plan.
Okay.
I think because of the way that contracts are structured nowadays, the freedom that the players do have within how they sign, for how long they sign, the buyout clause, the opt-out clause, I think the NBA knew what they was doing when they kind of set their contracts up like that.
Okay.
And with the revenue and the salary cap increasing year after year, I think that we'll continue to talk about basketball way after the season is over, even before it starts.
Which is a thought process,
during baseball, during football finna start back up, but we talking about the NBA free agency.
Okay.
I think it's just as much anticipated that the free agency is just as much anticipated as the NBA finals. So it's like a prequel to the NBA season, to the finals, and I think it's a good thing for the league. You know, the players have a voice as far as who I want to play with, for how long I want to play with them. I don't see it as being something that's going to hurt because it's not hurting. We talking about it right now. You and me and people alike, we still talking about it.
Absolutely.
The season's been over for how long? But a month after the season, though, we talking about NBA free agency right now.
Well, it's not a real long time, a month. But so my question: does the anticipation of a part of the NBA that technically is not the engine for revenue, right? The regular season, the playoffs. If that anticipation disappoints or just becomes extremely predictable after you witness what's going on in it, is it going to kind of take the steam out of the regular season from a revenue aspect, take the steam out of the playoffs from a revenue aspect? And Vince, take that.
I don't think so because I think we all can agree that Golden State is the prohibitive favorite to win the NBA, even before the Boogie Cousins acquisition. I think we all could agree.
Absolutely.
Had Golden State
Absolutely.
just stood pat and not done anything, they are the favorites to win the NBA championship, right? I think we can all agree to that. However, I think with free agency and how it kind of moves other pieces around the chessboard, it makes the regular season interesting. Now, does it make it interesting enough to where a casual fan is going to watch all 82 games? Probably not. But and I think we talked about this in like the pre-production. Now you'll be interested to see what Kawhi Leonard is going to do in Toronto. Mm-hmm. You'll be interested to see what a fully healthy Boston Celtics team with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie, what they do. Even though Golden State is Golden State, you'll still, when Boogie Cousins comes back, and
want to see how bad they're going to be.
You'll want to see what that looks like. Right. And with LeBron in LA, you'll definitely want to see what that's going to look like. So I still think that while I think at this point we all agree that what the end result is going to be is somewhat anticlimactic, there are enough subplots within the regular season to make you interested to see what's going to happen. And I know, but also we also even though Golden State is the favorite, it always seems like every playoff there's something that makes you kind of sit back and is like, okay, I still think this team's gonna the Houston thing.
Yeah, it's a shot. Right.
Last season, I thought Golden State was gonna run through the Western Conference, and then they played Houston, and then I'm like, okay, Houston's giving Golden State a little bit of a run, and then they were up 3-2, and then Chris Paul blew up the
7-game series, guys. So the best team is always going to win.
Best team's always going to win, but I say that to say you still have things that still kind of pull you in, even though the back of your head is like, I think I know how this is going to be.
And to come back to your point, is this going to hurt the revenue? They buying season tickets right now.
No, it's right.
Season tickets are being sold right now.
Yep.
Just based off of free agency. LeBron is over here. The Lakers probably sold out. Okay, Boogie done went down there. Okay, the 3% that didn't have season tickets. Okay, we got some now. You know, even in Houston, with the thought of, okay, I got Harden, I got Chris Paul. Oh, Carmelo Anthony want to come over here a little bit too. You know what I'm saying?
It almost seems like
it's being bought. And not even just for the teams that have these players, for the teams that's going to be playing these players. Okay, Houston's coming to town.
Yeah.
Lakers is coming to town. For the Hornets and whoever, those particular games are going to be sold out.
Absolutely.
So it's helping the revenue for the league and for the individual teams as well. That doesn't necessarily do good, you know, with selling out the arena for game to game. You know what I'm saying? But when these teams do come, they're going to be sold out. So is it helping as far as the revenue goes?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So let me dig a little deeper for you guys. I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel comfortable with your organization or with whatever you're attached to as far as career-wise? Do you feel comfortable with your organization for marketing purposes being gimmicky instead of just selling the product? And what I mean by that is you got these super teams, then you have the free agency fiasco because everybody's itching. But let's just say that none of your expectations for that play out, right? And at that point, it just knocks the steam out you from caring about it. Is there a time limit on this? Is there a time limit for every season free agency being gimmicky? And where's he gonna go? Where's he gonna go? Almost like a comic book or something. Like, is there a time limit on this instead of just selling the product like the NFL does? Just selling the product for what it is instead of selling individuals moving and going and changing.
So let me put the question back to you. What if the free agency aspect of it and the players moving from here to there, what if that is part of the product?
It is definitely a part of the product. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're building your product off gimmicks instead of off. It's on. I don't know if it's realistic to create a product within the product.
I don't think it's a gimmick. I mean, you're building your product off of the faces of your franchise. Mm-hmm. You know, you're building it off of LeBron. You're building it off of Harden or whatever NBA superstar that you have at that particular time. And the free agency market is going to continue to grow each year because they're not signing 6-year, 7-year long contracts like they used to do in the 90s.
Well, gimmick.
So it's 3 to 4 years.
If you Kevin Durant, it's 2. It's a 1 and 1.
So every 2 or 3 years, it's going to be a possibility that these players can possibly move somewhere. Whether they do or not, it's going to be a possibility. So it's always going to be a frenzy or who's going there and who's going here. It's always going to be that. And they set it up like that. I think it's set like, I think it was a strategic plan to set it up the way that they got it set up. You know what I'm saying? From the player standpoint, you know, they got a little bit more freedom as far as, you know, what they can do, who they can play with, and who they can play with as far as the organization.
So with that being said, in regards to the freedom of the players, and me personally, I definitely appreciate the type of freedom, even if they've had it all along, right? Now they're expressing themselves immensely. They're talking within each other. They're letting people know we could do this, and you got players going to, what was that called, the Hampton Five, when all the players went out to meet Durant in the Hamptons. No owners were involved in that, you know, and I love that. But I like to equate that to, you know, in the hood we call things a lick. Like I didn't hit a lick. So if I hit a lick, and if I find something out, and I'm just very sparingly taking advantage of that because I don't want it to get burnt up, which means I don't want it to get exposed. You catch that same, he over here getting this. Let me go 2 or 3 times more than him. You catch it and you say, you know how licks get burnt up all the time like that, right? So with these super teams and the players overly exposing their freedom in regards to, I can go here if I want and take less money. I can go here if I want. I don't give a fuck how lopsided the fair it is. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make. If it starts to tamper with how we view the game and how we want to watch it or we don't watch it, will upper management ownership get involved in regards to that and start trying to regulate the players?
How can they? Yeah. I mean, how can they regulate it? You know what I'm saying? And as a player, from a player's perspective, why would you care? You know, I'm looking at it as I want to do something that I want to do. You know, just looking at it from a player's point of view. I want to go over here to play. I'm not necessarily caring about the money because the thing about it is you get more money in endorsements than you do off your contract. So you got $200 million.
Yeah, you the player.
Exactly.
You know, you got $200 million in your contract. Yeah, you're gonna get about another
the
4.
The NBA don't see it.
You know, you're gonna get another 4. So I'm good with the money. You know what I'm saying? But I want to go play where I want to go to play. A lot of these players, they came up together.
With that being said, though, BT. With that being said, right? That's the player's perspective. I'm talking about the NBA's perspective. If they start losing steam from a revenue standpoint, right. Will they try to construe something to regulate the players' options? Will they reform contracts? Well, they can do that. Keep in mind, they've created the contract, so they can reformulate them if they want to. Will they start doing that if the players are overexposed, and if they're overexposed in their freedom to go wherever they want to go?
If it's in the collective bargaining agreement, they can't do anything. The players got it.
That can change though.
It can change if the players have to.
We'll go through
concede.
a strike. Somebody will win.
The players have to concede to say, okay, well, we can't do this anymore. They fought years to get this because it wasn't always like this. You know,
Absolutely.
players couldn't move how they wanted to move. They
And
wasn't actually putting in.
Absolutely.
And you know, I can opt out after 2 years. They weren't putting them in the players' contract, so they fought for that. They're not gonna get that back.
Mm-hmm.
So right now they have the power to say, okay, well. I'm gonna put. I'll sign for a 4 year, but after 2 years, I can opt out to become a free agent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I may want to go over here to play. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think they can actually regulate that, and I think it's actually a good thing for the NBA right now because right now, during baseball season and football season finna start up, we're still talking about the NBA.
And that's what I was gonna say. I think could it change at some point? Sure. Anything that's collectively bargained or any terms that are in a contract can in theory change based on the parameters of the market. I think at this point, even though the NBA ranks behind MLB and the NFL in revenue, from the perspective of the players and the owners in the NBA, we got a golden cash cow here. We've got
Absolutely.
Right. So we've got the LeBrons, we've got the KDs. If it takes loosening the contract requirements and allowing I shouldn't say allow, but players, enforcing their freedoms to move when and where they want to, and if ultimately it results in a win-win for the league, I think you'll continue to see that. I also agree with BT's point in the sense that a bit of Pandora's box has been opened in the sense that if these players have this level of freedom where they can get together with other players and say, all right, we're gonna come here and play, and I want to play with you, and we're gonna do this. I am hard pressed to see a point at which the players are going to, unless the NBA finds itself in extreme dire financial, situation.
But it's power though. So we talked about this. They're like fourth on the financial scheme of revenue as far as sports goes. It's not about comfort with elite people that are billionaires. It's not about being comfortable. It's about keep climbing. So all I'm saying is that if the NBA hits a wall, and we talked about the progression too. We talked about how even though they're fourth, they're like as far as progression, they're growing. They've done that more than any other. Did we look and see if they're first? No, I think they're still behind the NFL.
They're fourth behind the NFL, but on a growth
progression, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. On the growth rate, they were up 25% from 16 to 17.
Okay, so they was probably number one in
and the NFL was 7%. So they're growing at a higher revenue from a revenue standpoint. They're growing at a higher clip than the NFL. So that's one thing.
They're progressing. Yeah. They're looking at that bottom line. Okay, we was here, we 25% up, and we're still moving.
Okay, I mean. We got
and to your point, it's hard to. I know you look at NFL versus everyone else. You're absolutely right. It's hard to compete with a sports organization that has its own day. Yeah. It's hard it's hard to see a point to where you're gonna surpass that because the NFL has Sunday. That is their day.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna, how you gonna do that? Yeah.
They got the only thing, and I'm not trying to just compare the NBA directly to the NFL. Sure. Right. But even I don't think most successful people have a loser's mentality.
True. I agree.
So that being said, they're trying to figure out still how to catch the NFL. But even if they're comfortable with that, I just, feel as though everything that the league represents is because of the fans. And once and I know the gimmick is always going to have us searching for something. And even if we're watching the season the whole time to see what Kawhi going to do, what LeBron and the Lakers are going to do, we're going to be watching it for something. But I don't know if they get old or not. You know, it could get old. It could possibly not get old.
It's a storyline.
It's a story that deserves to be told.
Storyline.
But the story still grabs the audience. We all
That's
knew.
hard work, though, man. Continuously.
You want to be rich? You want to stay rich?
Absolutely.
You want to continue to grow? It don't matter hard work.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
The NFL, I think they're working smart, not hard. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they disregard things because they can. And that being said, let's move on. Our next topic we're going to discuss is in regards to the NFL and a new rule they put out and then rescinded it, actually, right? Let's just start from the beginning. Colin Kapernick, semi-successful quarterback in the National Football League, decided that he was tired of the inequality and the situations African Americans in this country deal with on a regular basis. And during the national anthem, he took a knee. And with that being said, it caused some backlash. And, he's gotten interviews in regards to this. He explained thoroughly, I think, like why he's taking a knee in regards to this situation. And it actually spiraled into other players standing up for it or kneeling down for equality, however you want to put it.
Exactly.
And this caused the National Football League to create a rule, basically saying, moving forward, if you do not stand for the national anthem, then you're put on punishment. Well, let me give it to him real life. If you don't stand for the national anthem on the field, then you have to remain in the locker room until it's over, and then you can come out. Some people would probably say, okay, well that's fair in a sense, right? If you don't want to respect the national anthem when it's being actually performed, then stay in the locker room. You won't get fined. You won't get anything. That's fine. That's a good idea. But it's almost like, and I'll let you guys touch on it. It's almost like you're just trying to literally disregard the sentiment behind the kneeling down, and that's what I have an issue with. You're gonna obviously let everybody know where you guys stand in regards to it, but is that a fair rule? And let's just put out there they've also rescinded it. Like they've placed it on hold, so it's no longer an immediate issue. But we don't know what they're going to do in regards to it in the future. That they're doing probably what they should have did initially and start talking and doing research and gathering, and they're probably doing all that stuff now, right? But do we have an issue with how they handled it, and do you think that you should not support the NFL this year because of that? Let's start with do you guys have an issue with it first?
You want to take that?
Somebody take it.
First off, I never spoke out personally, publicly about the situation. I guess I had my opinions about it. I watched it unfold. I think that honestly, the NFL was caught in the middle of what was going on out in America. I believe.
Also, the victims.
No, not necessarily. Not a victim. Let me finish my point.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish my point. Not a victim, but Colin Kaepernick used the platform of the NFL to get out his message. I don't necessarily think he was targeting the NFL, but he was using the platform because it was so big. To get the message out that he had about what was going on in the community. You know what I'm saying? In America. Absolutely. I think that was the case. I think that's what he was doing. And I think because he just kneeled and he never had comments behind why he was doing it until it kind of caught national attention. People noticed, okay, why is he sitting? Then he was kneeling. Why is he doing that? in the beginning, he never had a comment about it. Then when he was finally asked why he was kneeling, it came out. And the media beforehand kind of created some type of narrative of why he's doing it. Really,
but that was somewhat immediate though. I think he got asked that after the first game he did.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't necessarily after the first game. But they still created a narrative of why he was doing it, not really getting his perspective on why he was doing it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he was necessarily directing anything towards the NFL like you suppose. Because honestly, in society in America, what role did the NFL have to play in the injustices that we are, not receiving, that was going on for the minorities?
Well, they platformed him as an employee. So anything I do on my employer's stance has everything to do with my employer.
Or am I using my employer just to get my message out?
They don't look at it like that from a business aspect.
From a business standpoint,
yeah.
No, I'm just talking about just as a regular consumer. We're looking at it, saying, okay, what role is the NFL going to play in creating some type of better situation with the injustices that's being put out there in America? You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily think that it was directed towards the NFL. I believe he used it as a platform, and I think that it was what he was doing was twisted by the media. Everything was twisted by the media on why he was doing it.
Okay, I'm gonna touch on that. Go ahead, Vince.
So I agree with a lot of what BT said.
Okay.
I think what Colin Kaepernick was trying to do and the message he was trying to put out there, from a lot of people, it got misconstrued as far as being anti-police, anti-military, anti-flag.
Talk about it.
Any of the three you want to put into.
Absolutely.
And so if you believe that, and then you go and ask the person who is leading the protest why you're doing this, and they tell you, I'm not anti-police, I'm not anti-military, I'm not anti-flag. I've even gone so far as to reach out to members of past and present of the military to say, I want...
All documented.
Right, all documented. Yeah. Those members of the military have actually come out and supported what Kaepernick said and said he's reached out to us, and we recommended that instead of sitting, how about you kneel? And so they came to an agreement. If you go through all of that and he tells you it's not meant to defame any of the people who fall into those categories, at some point you have to, in my mind, you have to take a person's explanation at face value, because you have no other...
Because he's doing it up front.
He's doing it up front. Right. He is telling you why he is doing this, and he's telling you the measures he went to try to not offend the people who, if it's misconstrued, they might be offended by this. Now, if he tells you that and you still hear that and say, I still think he's anti-this, anti-that, anti-this, what it tells me is you got an agenda. Right. You were never interested in the reason why he's doing this. It's a peaceful protest, which so many people in light of the incidents that have happened over the last few years, i.e., Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, all these incidents where people have protested, and people on the other side of the argument has said, well, why don't you protest peacefully? What Colin Kaepernick did was a definition of a peaceful protest, and yet people still have an issue with it.
Exactly. So we just taking the blankets off.
Right. So
we know who you really
So I feel like, unfortunately, what Colin did ultimately will probably cost him his NFL career, which is unfortunate.
It has. I just said that average NFL career is 3.3 years.
Right.
This is about to be year 2.
Right.
Where he's without a job because of this.
But thanks to him, it is taking the blanket off of from people who really don't care to understand why he protested. But then I would ask those same people, are you more offended about Colin Kaepernick protesting, protesting and kneeling during the national anthem? Or should you be more upset about the fact that the U.S. Department of Defense has to pay the NFL for this whole military exercise they do in October for the troops, and we got the flag and we bring the soldiers out to meet their family.
Absolutely.
That's not done out of the goodness of the NFL's heart. The NFL is getting fairly compensated for that. Are you more upset about that, or are you more upset about a few players who happen to kneel during the national anthem, which in turn, for many years, was not even televised at the beginning of an NFL football game? So the argument is so disingenuous that it's almost comical.
And those are great points you raised too, by the way. And with the knowledge of knowing those things, right? They still proceed, and they still stick to the format that they're using because they just don't care. They don't care to acknowledge our, bright tendencies, or they just move forward with their agenda, and their agenda is whatever it is. So that's the thing that irritates me. It's almost like a slap in the face, like, you motherfuckers are just dumb. We could tell you that we could piss on you and tell you it's raining, basically.
You know what it is? It's you make a good point. What it is that they look at the Colin Kaepernicks, they look at the Aaron Reids. I know there was a big to do about Marshawn Lynch was sitting during the national anthem. But long story short, they look at the who's the one of the Bennett brothers. I can't think of his name, but Martellus. They look at the Malcolm Jenkins. They look at all of these football players who.
That was Michael Bennett.
Michael Bennett. Thank you. I couldn't think of his name, but they think of these football players who are millionaires for playing quote unquote a kid's game. They look at all these athletes and they say, you know what, you should thank the moon and the stars that you get paid millions of dollars to play this game, not taking into account that, hey, you're a coach, you can speak to this better than I can, but to take into account the sacrifice you have to make from Pop Warner, Pee Wee,
absolutely,
high school, all the way up, college, all the training, all this stuff. All these sacrifices you have to make to get to an NFL.
You owe us, basically.
Right. Yeah. Basically.
So for you to even think,
yes,
a la Ray Rice,
right?
I'm sorry, a la Ray Lewis. Saying he was praying.
Yeah.
And, Pac-Man Jones has spoken out and basically said we need to find another way other than this. This is we can't do this. Pac-Man Jones has. Gotten into a lot of different issues in the NFL.
Let's not forget about LaShawn McCoy, who said Colin Kaepernick would be too much of a distraction. What happened to LaShawn McCoy in the last week and a half?
Absolutely.
Is that not a distraction?
Come on.
So it's convenient when it's not for you.
It's not for you. Exactly. I mean,
so
the NFL is going to look at the bottom line.
They're not.
It's a bottom line thing for a business.
Because their system works, BT, right?
It works,
you know what I mean?
And we don't want nothing, no wrinkles in the system of what works. Because the thing about it is we got these people bringing us money, we got these people bringing us money. All of our sponsors is calling us talking about what are you going to do about the product that you're putting out there on the field because this is happening. So they're going to look at it as in a business standpoint. I think the NFL fails and falls short when it comes to handling situations. They just do not handle it correctly.
And they don't handle it correctly, and then it's there's this thing, optics. Whether it's Ray Rice, whether it's Greg Hardy, whether it's Ray Lewis, whether it's Zeke, whether it's Jameis Winston.
Man, that's a lot of black athletes.
Unfortunately, and I don't want to, Josh Brown, the kicker for the Giants. Let's put somebody else.
Hold on, Riley Cooper.
Okay.
Right. But these incidents.
That's the nigga guy.
Yeah.
Nothing much came out of that, but go ahead.
Right. Nothing much came out of that. Right.
Exactly. It disappears when they want it to.
But it's the issue of, in a lot of those instances, you can't also have in October where we're rolling out the pink gloves, the pink cleats, and all this stuff, for breast cancer awareness, or we're coming out against domestic violence abuse. But then you have an inequality in the punishment where before the Ray Rice video got out, and he, by all argument's sake, he feels remorse for what he's done. He's tried to do things in the community. So, okay, I'll give you that. But before the video came out, the NFL, Goodell, Baltimore, everybody was like, 2-game suspension. You come back after the 2 games.
And
right?
I'm sure they knew.
And you cannot, to your point, right? You cannot tell me a $14 billion corporation that has revenues in excess of $14 billion did not know that video existed.
Yeah,
okay? Let's say, for argument's sake, they knew.
They just didn't know somebody else.
Right. They just didn't know somebody else had a copy. That's a 2-game suspension. Jameis Winston, we live in an innocent. Allegedly, we still live in an innocent until proven guilty society, but the allegation has been that he sexually assaulted an Uber driver. They agreed to a 3-game suspension. If you believe Jameis Winston is guilty, you agreed to a 3-game suspension for sexual assault. The Miami Dolphins, before they rolled that policy back, wanted to suspend their players up to 4 games for protesting the national anthem. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
It's racism.
I don't understand
it. I don't want to, pull the race card.
Neither do I. Yeah.
But
it's hard.
It's just odd. It's
odd.
It's odd.
Unfortunate ordeals.
Because you look at the videotape came out about Ray Rice, but he was suspended for 2 games until they saw the video. But Zeke got suspended for 6 games off somebody else's word.
Right.
And the gas would be that's just he's
her word
black
against
too.
my word.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So
the cause
he
is
got
different.
suspended he got suspended for 6 games just based off of somebody they didn't know. She said he did this and that's what he did. He was never convicted or whatever.
Maybe right.
6
I
games,
got it. Yeah.
Can't say all of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's no what is the word I'm looking for? It is no follow-through, no consistency in what the NFL does when it comes to handling punishments or issues that have to do with, injustice, equality, domestic violence, anything. It's no consistency.
There's never been an area where people hold them accountable for these things because they're so revenue generated in our society is ridiculous. Like, they've become untouchable.
But
absolutely.
But I'll tell you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's why I'm at. I'm king. I'm looking down on everybody else. You dig? You know what I'm saying? We gonna do things what we normally do it, how we always did it, and you ain't gonna tell me how to do it. You ain't gonna tell me how to do it. This is how we do things.
And I would say, from my standpoint, this is where, to a certain, and I don't want to blame the Players Association, but to me, this is where you giving Goodell the ability to be judge, jury, and executioner is where it comes into play, because there's the punishments you yield out for certain, they're so all over the place. Nothing is consistent.
He got too much power.
One
man has too much power.
My thing is this too, right? And this whole situation could have been abolished, fixed, turned over into positive immediately had he announced a brief statement, just letting everybody know, hey. First off, let's not get this misconstrued. I want to state that my players, I have total faith in them that they're not doing this to defame the flag, veterans, or the country. They're doing this to raise awareness on certain issues, and we do need to talk about it, and we absolutely will. And that's all I have to say.
When did you think that was on?
I'm just, right. This is
that's ever happened.
This is.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I know
I'm
exactly
not
what you're saying.
Absolutely.
But it has never happened.
Absolutely.
NFL is not going to get ahead of anything.
They just have to be.
They gonna sit there. They gonna be like, "This is what we do.
Well,
this is what it is."
We're reacting.
Not until
exactly
those phone calls come in from the sponsors.
Absolutely. So there's no proactivity in what they do because they don't need it because they haven't suffered financially. Right? That's the biggest thing.
For all of the talk on both sides of the argument, whether you were pro Kapernick or pro, pro flag or what have you. For all the talk of both sides, people saying, I'm not going to watch football. I'm going to be willing to guess the viewing statistics for the NFL were either slightly down to flat versus where they were.
Absolutely.
Before
they didn't take any type of
and I'm sure we can all speak
whatsoever.
And I'm sure we can all speak in our careers and our daily, ventures outside where people are like, that's it, I'm not going to watch the NFL, this, that, and the other. I bet you in February they were in front of a TV watching the Super Bowl.
Really?
It's just, it is what it is.
I was actually one of those guys that were prior to them kind of rescinding and rethinking. It's bad that it has to come to, just drastic measures in order to get your point across, but that's what it takes. In history, you know that. But I was one of those guys who, banned the NFL. And I was not going to watch the Super Bowl. Listen, y'all know me. So you know how difficult that was going to be for me to, come on. You know how difficult that was going to be for me. But at the end of the day, there's a bigger issue than me, being satisfied. I got kids now, man.
We
all in the same.
We in the same boat. We have issues out here in the community, man, that
absolutely
we have to fix from the ground up. And everybody is trying to gloss over it. Everybody is trying to just throw a little bit.
It's just hard.
We just got to start it at the level that we are at. You know what I'm saying? To being able to affect the kids that we have in front of us, that we can affect on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
And hopefully they're gonna grow up, and they're gonna affect the next 20 kids, and they're gonna affect the next 20 kids, and this is gonna keep growing.
Absolutely.
It's just we got to start at some level.
Yep.
I know everybody's at different levels in their life. You know what I'm saying? You got Father Flagger, you got the NFL owners, you got this, you got that, who are able to galvanize and bring people together to shut down the damn Ryan like Father Flagger did, to galvanize and put money into certain programs like some of the NFL owners can do, or some of the NFL players or NBA players can do. You know what I'm saying? But at our level, where we at right now, we just got to affect what we can affect and hope that it comes out, where we need it to be. You know what I'm saying? We're putting the right things in our kids. From up sitting here talking to each other, you know what I'm saying? Just knowing that where we want to be, us having kids, us being dads and things like that, where we want the society to be. It's not going to change overnight, but we can try to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's individuality. Like you won't make massive change with individuality, right? You make it with groups of people that believes, whether it be an individual, whether it be a cause, whether it be a statement made. That's how you change it. You create a way.
Here's the thing I would lead to people who watch this podcast, and if you feel like you're anti-Colin Kaepernick, as much as you're tired of hearing the position that Kaepernick supporters take, that's how tired people who are supporters of Kaepernick feel about having this conversation.
So at the end of the day, I think what it boils down to is what are your morals like? What do you take from the NFL stance on certain things, or is it even a stance? Like, where do you take their being so reactive as far as being proactive on, taking these issues by the neck and making sure that they're established before it spirals out of control like this just did? Wherever you lie in regards to your morals and values in regards to disagreeing, agreeing, taking a certain stance on certain agendas of the NFL, even the NBA. Just make sure that you stand for something and you don't fall for anything at the end of the day, and never fall for the overplay for the underlay. Please make sure you do your research before you just, part ways or infuse yourself with certain issues and details in society and America. This is the 606 Whatever podcast. We'll see you again shortly. 2 of them.
The greatness started off in a base. Complacent, they happy with mediocrity. Said I'm faced with little people that count on me. Bigger picture monopoly. Credit is on the rise. Invest in the paper properly. Watch it double in size. Surprise, the vision is in my eyes.